Hello, Max here, and I spent all yesterday putting together a nice blue watch discussing the upcoming balance changes being discussed on the Overwatch forums. I felt pretty safe from the usual Blizzard sniping that goes on when I publish a news video because the devs appearing on the live streams at Gamescom were reporting the PTR was to be expected immediately after Gamescom. Sometimes I guess it's just not your day. Let's look at the changes published onto the PTR last night. Season 2 Competitive is live on the PTR with the changes I already discussed in the previous video this week. If you're interested in what those changes are, please check out that video. There should be a note on the screen with a link. What we're interested in here are the hero balance changes. Up first we have two general changes. Ultimates that consume the ultimate meter when activated will now drain the meter more quickly, 0.25 of a second instead of 1 second. This really feels like a good change. There is nothing less disappointing than boss moding it and instantly shutting down an ultimate from someone like Reaper, only to have them come back from the spawn room to just press Q again. Now, unless you interrupt it within 0.25 of a second, it will be gone. Reverted a recent change to reduce the size of heroes' projectiles. This, I feel, is not such a good change. In fact, this is batshit bonkers. A stealth change was made when Ana was released that reduced the size of the projectiles in the game because Hanzo was able to land headshots on people round corners. And no, I don't mean 20 tick round corners, I mean the whole of a character model is not in Hanzo's line of sight, yet the moody archer could still put an arrow in their head hitbox. On top of this, they are making changes to Hanzo. Hanzo will now experience a 30% decrease in speed whilst aiming, formerly 40%. Okay, fair enough, poor little Hanzo wanted to move very slightly faster while drawing his bow. I guess he's been doing a little extra cardio recently and perhaps some more leg work. Well done Hanzo, we're all proud of you. You enjoy your extra movement speed. Maximum projectile speed has been increased by 30%. I'm sorry, what? Maximum projectile speed has been increased by 30%. Seems he's also treated himself to a new bow that fires whacking great tree trunks at near supersonic speed. My guess is these changes are to address the issue that defense heroes are just not played in high skill rating games or competitive tournaments. The developer comments say they are trying to make his damage more reliable, but to me that's always been the trade-off of Hanzo. He has the potential to deal a crazy amount of damage, but you could never be guaranteed it would land at medium distance. If you start to make his damage easy to land on unpredictable targets, then he becomes overpowered. Of course, this is all on the PTR, and I encourage everyone to playtest if they have the time and report back on the forums. It might be a positive change, but we'll just have to wait and see. D.Va has had her defense matrix very slightly altered. After being activated, defense matrix will begin regenerating following a 1 second delay, formerly 0.5 of a second. D.Va is incredibly powerful right now, and while this change will not make much of a difference to her usage, it will stop players spamming the defense matrix off and on to make it last longer. A minor change, but something I feel was needed. Mei's ultimate has had some tweaks. The Blizzard projectile now pierces barriers, and the radius has been increased from 8 to 10 meters. This is a small change that will make Mei's ultimate feel a bit more like an actual ultimate, but I very much doubt it will have any impact of her use in the meta. Ice Wall really is one of the most powerful non-ultimate abilities in the game, yet you struggle to fit her into a team composition. At the moment it's pretty standard to run 2-2-2, 2 supports, 2 tanks and 2 DPS. Mei really is none of those things. You could possibly call her a support, but she doesn't offer anything in the way of keeping your team in the fight, no healing and no teleporter. She has 250 HP and cryo freeze for some pretty good survivability, but she still isn't even close to the tankiness of actual tanks. And as for damage, she just doesn't cut it. Like all the defense heroes apart from Bastion and Widowmaker, her range damage is spammy and unreliable, although Hanzo might be changing with this patch. If you could work out how to put her into a team and keep the support, tankiness and damage you need, she could be very strong, chopping teams in half with Ice Wall and freezing anyone who gets close to your healers. This change to her ultimate is fine, but I really doubt we'll suddenly see more Mei on the ladder. McCree's ult is getting a significant nerf. Deadeye now drains over 0.25 of a second instead of displaying a 50% reduction. This means using McCree's ultimate actually uses his ultimate instead of leaving you at 50% charge if you didn't fire. This is a change that was well overdue. Yes, McCree's ult can be difficult to use to kill people, but activating it can be an incredibly powerful zoning tool. It really was a little crazy that McCree could cause a whole team to scatter and hide, then a couple of headshots later had it available again. This is a positive change that I really am happy with. Mercy, oh mercy, mercy me. Once upon a time you were one of the most picked supports in the game, now we hardly know ya. They're increasing her healing by 20%, this means she's jumping to 60 healing a second from 50. They're also very slightly buffing Resurrect. Resurrected allies will be able to maneuver after 2.25 seconds, reduced from 3 seconds. I was actually expecting some kind of a change to her damage boost, and I'm surprised they've boosted her healing. We know last time they tried to bring her damage boost up to 50%, but it was just too much. But I'm not sure an increase to her healing will change much about her power in the game at the moment. It could be this does have a large effect, making it much harder to kill a target being healed by Mercy, but let's take a look at McCree, the most used damage dealer, as an example. McCree does 140 damage per second, that's a 70 damage shot every half a second. Previously, Mercy healed for 50 health a second. A 200 HP target would die in 2.5 seconds if getting healed by Mercy and damaged by McCree. At 60 health a second, nothing changes. The target still dies in 5 shots. I'm sure there will be breakpoints of other damage dealers where the extra 10 health a second is relevant, but right now Mercy just doesn't provide the utility that Lucio and Zenyatta do, even with the nerfs they are getting in this patch that we'll discuss in a moment. I get that they are trying to make her niche large single target healing, but I don't think it's enough. The change to her ultimate feels pretty irrelevant, but small changes have been known to make massive differences. I just don't see this as one of those small changes. Next up is Genji, and this really took me by surprise. In the video I made yesterday, I said I did not expect any Genji changes anytime soon, yet here we are. Double jump no longer resets when wall climbing. One of the big reasons Genji is so hard to deal with for most people is because of his irregular movement patterns. We're used to enemies moving in a somewhat predictable pattern along a horizontal plane, but as you played against Genji more and more, you became accustomed to his movements and you could learn to shoot him. He still will be able to do most of that movement, but this change does restrict it a little. I do believe if you had trouble shooting Genji before, you will still have trouble shooting him now. He really is one of those heroes where there is no magic to beating him. It is, I'm sorry to say, just get good and learn how to shoot him. McCree, Soldier, Zarya, Roadhog and Zenyatta for the Discord Orb. These are the heroes you need to learn to use to beat Genji, if he's still in the meta. Dash no longer deals damage to traps and no longer bypasses Junkrat's Steel Trap. Why it was ever like this in the first place, I don't know. According to Jeff Goodman, it was in fact a bug and not actually working as intended. Swift Strike no longer interrupts quick melee attacks. This is the big one. This is the change that could stop Genji being effective. Until we actually test this out though, I'm not convinced yet. It does hugely reduce his kill potential. What Genji is trying to do is getting close and chip your health down until he can finish you off with a right-click melee Swift Strike combo that does 164 damage. This now takes the melee out of that combo, meaning he can only burst for 134. Seagull, one of the best Genji players in the world, believes this is the death of the hero. Increasing Genji's time to kill does of course mean Genji has to take more risks to get kills, and this may indeed be the end of Genji at competitive tournament level, but I still think he will be a dominant force at medium to high skill level, where players still struggle to shoot at the ninja bastard. I guess time will tell. Dragon Blade duration has been reduced to 6 seconds from 8. Genji's ultimate is a big source of complaint from the community because people feel it is almost impossible to counter. Reducing its duration is definitely going to make it easier to deal with. He can now swing only 7 times during his ultimate, down from the previous 9. I really wasn't expecting Genji changes because I firmly believe any minor changes wouldn't matter and any major changes would make him unplayable. From that viewpoint to seeing these changes, I really don't know what to think. I have played a fair bit of Genji, but I've never considered myself a Genji main, and while these changes definitely reduce his power, I'm willing to admit I might be wrong, and these could be the changes needed to make him more fair to play against. But at the back of my mind, I can't shake the feeling that says this is the death of the cyborg ninja within the current meta. Lucio is getting slowed down. Amp it up, the boosting movement speed has been decreased by 30%. From a 100% increase to a 70% increase. Lucio's speed boost is what makes him the must-have support in the current live meta of Zenyatta Lucio. It is so powerful being able to reposition your whole team for an aggressive push, or just make everyone a more difficult target during a teamfight. I don't play enough Lucio to have a proper feeling for how effective this change will be, but my gut says that a burst of 70% extra movement speed is still something you'll very much want on your team. Roadhog is getting a small change to make his hooks more consistent. If the hooked target isn't in Roadhog's line of sight when retracting the hook, they will be moved back to the position where they were originally hooked. This is fine, it makes sense. If Hog lands his hook, it should mean you're pulled in front of him. Anything that makes that more consistent really is fine by me, no matter how you feel about getting hooked by the fat jiggly hog. And finally, in hero balancing, Zenyatta is getting the nerf we all knew he needed and deserved. The amount of damage amplified by the target with Discord Orb has been decreased from 50% to 30%. Orb of Destruction damage has been increased from 40 to 46. This is exactly what we were expecting, and it is the best change I can imagine for him. He will still be a very powerful support, so if you are a Zenyatta main, or maybe you just really enjoy him right now, I don't think anything should change for you. Just maybe now the rest of us won't get that sinking feeling when the enemy have one and we don't. The change to his Orb of Discord just keeps his personal DPS almost exactly the same. He fires 3 orbs a second, so at 40 damage a ball it was 120 plus 50%, which is of course 180. At 46 damage with a 30% Orb of Discord, it's 179.4 damage a second. I think we can all live with a 0.6 damage a second nerf to Zenyatta's personal DPS. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, hit that like button and subscribe for future Overwatch content. You can follow me on Twitter at TotallyFutile, and we stream 4 nights a week on twitch.tv/cynicalnerds. Special thanks to everyone who is supporting our small channel on the Patreon. Your support allows me to continue to do this full time. Until next time, take it easy, and I'll see you soon.